Hi, this is Bill Ringle, host of My Quest for the Best, where we meet business, thought, and community leaders to discuss issues relevant to entrepreneurial growth. Joining us today is Dr. Alan Zimmerman. Alan is a full-time professional speaker and trainer in the areas of motivation, leadership, communication change, and work-life balance. He has given more than 2,000 programs in the last 25 years to more than 1 million people in 48 states and 22 countries. A certified speaking professional and a member of the National Speakers Association Speakers Hall of Fame, he maintains an enviable 92 ratio of repeat and referral business. Alan is founder, owner, and president of Zimmerman Communicare Network, a multi-office speaking, training, and consulting company. He is also a professional speaker and consultant for the state of Missouri and was twice named Distinguished Faculty Member by the Institute of Management Studies. He is the author of Pivot, How One Simple Turn in Attitude Can Lead to Success, and The Service Payoff, How Customer Service Champions Outserve and Outlast the Competition, among other titles. Welcome, Alan.
Well, hi, Bill. How are you doing today?
Doing great. Tell me, how did you get started as a full-time speaker?
Well, I never planned on doing this for a career. I was a professor at the university. I was tenured. I loved teaching. And I kept getting asked by local service groups like the Rotary Club or a Kiwanis Club or a church group to speak to their organization about some of the things I was teaching on communication, on motivation. And people there in the audience would say, well, this sounds great. Can you come to our company and talk about that? I said, yeah. And actually, in the next few years, 7 years, I was earning a great deal more money speaking part-time than I was teaching full-time. Eventually, I had to make a decision which career to take, the professorship or the professional speaking. Went with the speaking, and I was kind of surprised. First year in the business with no calling, no brochure, no marketing. We booked 167 programs, and been busy ever since.
And how long ago did you start?
Began the business in 1985 full-time, speaking part-time before that. So that was the choice point, deciding which profession to take, the speaking or the teaching. And still teaching, of course, just a different audience every day.
How does your speaking career today compare to speaking in 1985?
Interesting question. I think people, because of the challenging times, the economy being difficult, they want real meat. Tell me what to do. I don't care about theory. I don't care about academic models. I just want to know how to do my job more effectively, what's going to bring a big payoff for our industry or our particular set of customers. So it's really lots of meat and a lot more how-to. Certainly there's still motivation. That's important. Stories, entertainment, those are pieces of a program, but people want a lot more content than ever before.
And even with the content, wouldn't you say that attitude is a fundamental aspect of what people need in order to do their jobs more effectively?
It really is. When you look at the research, Bill, the number one determining factor in success is attitude. It comes higher than education, a GPA level in school, racial, ethnic background. Nothing comes higher than attitude. And people often take it for granted and don't really work on it or know how to develop it. So you're right. It's a key factor for success.
In your opinion, why is it that people overlook attitude, since it is so important and it's recognized when people are asked about it, but it's so difficult, it seems, if you've ever walked up to a bank teller on a busy day, for attitude to be implemented effectively?
Well, I think it's overlooked partly because it seems like common sense. People think they should already know that. Why go to a class and learn about it? And I find the big gap between what I call known common sense and applied common sense. People may know what to do, but don't always know what to do or how to do it. I think the other thing is there's a constant barrage of negativity in the media. People are hearing negative stuff on the various stories in the nation, across the country, and after being exposed to enough negativity, people just kind of lose their attitude in the process. They tend to absorb some of the negativity and lose their own positive attitude.
Aside from the media, do you think that there are other reasons why it's so hard for professionals to keep a positive attitude?
Well, yeah. You asked about my career for being 25 years in length, and the number one job complaint I heard in the beginning of my career, and I still hear today, number one job complaint, you can do 100 things right, not hear a thing about it. Do one thing wrong, they're right in your back. In other words, people so easily can give the negative feedback. but don't tend to hear the positive nearly often enough. And they're crying for it. It's a very simple thing people are asking for, but simply overlooked.
How do you think that compares to other countries?
Well, that's a good question. There's been a number of research studies asking people from Western civilization like Europe and North America what they want out of life. And the number one answer is, I just want to be happy. When you ask Eastern civilizations in Asia, for example, what do you want out of life? Number one answer is, I want to be successful. And there seems to be a big difference in the educational process, the approach, where I think Americans have this thing of, I want to be happy, don't know how to do that sometimes. They don't have the skills for bringing it about. They're in a comparison game of who has more. You look in the various industries we're competing with right now, we have some strong competition coming from other countries in the East because of a different mindset about success.
I remember reading an article just this past weekend talking about how the supply chains for manufacturers are so entrenched in Asian countries, say China in particular, because it's very easy for them to put in the dedication, to put in the hours to take on tasks that Americans simply are unwilling to do. And a very specific example of that was a change in iPhone manufacturing. 6 weeks before the iPhone was released to market, Steve Jobs held up his prototype iPhone to his lieutenants and said, I've been carrying this around like other people are going to be carrying this around in my pocket. My keys were in my pocket, and they scratched the heck out of the plastic cover. It's got to use hardened glass instead of plastic. Well, one of his vice presidents got on a plane, went to China, had a meeting, and within 48 hours, they had 1,000 people mobilized in the factories where there are dormitories, starting to reconfigure the product assembly line to change the iPhone manufacturing process. And people within Apple, within Motorola, within Dell, within all of the high-tech manufacturers say the reason that that's in China and overseas is because we just can't find people with the attitude to do this here. It's not the skill set or education, it's the attitude.
Yeah, that's an amazing story, and it's so true. I think there's an attitude amongst some American workers of what have you done for me lately, rather than what can I contribute to the success of the organization. I think there's a feeling among some people that they owe me they owe me a living. They owe me certain benefits. And the emphasis has been too much on what's in it for me rather than what can I do for the organization. I think there's some problems in loyalty, some problems in attitude, and some problems in just plain enthusiasm or drive.
So if this is something that's recognized all the way up and down the leadership lines within American business culture, what can people do to have a better attitude now, Alan?
That's a good question. I think the first thing is recognize how important it is. You just cannot put aside the research. It comes out in study after study that it is one of the key determining factors. So first of all, recognize that this is a critical thing. Can't leave it to chance. It is important. I think a second thing for attitude is to recognize that you may have some negative attitudes that are destroying your success, your effectiveness. And when you look at the research there, when people have self-talk, inside their heads they're telling themselves certain things. I can't do this, or that may not work. 85% of an average person's self-talk is negative. They've got to learn to stop that. That's the second thing. And a simple way to do that is talk back to yourself. When you find yourself thinking negatively, I can't do it, literally tell yourself, stop it, now just stop it. And with firm repetition, you can take control of the mind. I think a third thing that would be important is what I call the old-fashioned act as if principle. If you wait until you feel like doing something, may never feel that way. One of the solid, simple points of psychology. If you act happy, you'll be happy. You act enthusiastic, you'll be enthusiastic. Act with enthusiasm or energy, more energy comes out. And so it's a matter of not waiting till you feel like it, but doing something about it now. I think those are 3 beginning steps.
And Alan, has it always been easy for you to be positive and happy and enthusiastic? I've known you for years, and you're one of the most consistently positive, enthusiastic, and happy people I know. What is it that has allowed you to be that way, and has it always been that case?
It's an interesting question. People take a look at someone's life and they say, well, obviously, you've got it made. You have a great career. You have success in these areas. It's easy for you. What they don't see is what people have come through. In my family, there was suicide, there was imprisonment, there was divorce, there was lack of finances, all kinds of difficulty. And one of the things I learned years ago, when you come to a big problem in life, it's a choice point. And you can choose at that point to get better or get bitter. And I see lots of people go through a divorce, a financial setback, a job problem, and they get bitter. Life isn't fair. That's not right. Shouldn't happen to me. They get bitter. And other folks you see go through the same difficulty, and they get better. They start using some skills or learn some skills they didn't have before, and that gets them to a point where they get positive, and stay more effective. And so I don't think it's so much, Bill, a matter of arriving, and you've got it made forever and ever. There'll always be challenges. But it's a matter of, do you have the skills for getting through that? I think one of the misnomers is people think, well, those who are positive don't have the issues, the problems, or the challenges. That's not true. They simply have the skills to not stay down as long, get through it more quickly, and stay more effective in the long run. So I work at it like everybody else. It's using some skills to stay consistent.
And what is it that inspired you to write Pivot, How One Simple Turn in Attitude Can Lead to Success?
What inspired me was the idea that I see so many people in the workshops I do, the programs I give, who could do so much more. They don't believe in themselves. They have significant doubts. And I felt a certain kind of sadness that here were people with great skills and not going very far. What I noticed over the years, I would ask myself the question, why is it that some people with so much talent accomplish so little, and other folks with so much difficulty accomplish so much? And I finally decided it was attitude. That was the key to differential factor. It wasn't a matter of circumstance, wasn't a matter of anything else, but just a simple approach to how they framed their attitude.
So a lot of times people will say, one of my least favorite expressions is, I'm having a bad day. How does that impact their productivity in your viewpoint?
Well, you just expressed what I call a mind binder. A mind binder is a phrase you tell yourself negatively. I could never do that. I couldn't give a speech. I can't make a cold call. I can't close that sale. This is a terrible day. And when you utter that or think that, very strong chance you'll stay in that negative emotional pattern for some time. In psychology, the basic premise says we perform exactly as we see ourselves or tell ourselves. So if we see ourselves or tell ourselves negative things, that's where you're going to live your day. So I tell people that's dangerous. You cannot think that way. You cannot talk to yourself that way. Part of it I said before. Learn to tell yourself, stop it, talk back to yourself. But also, once you stop the negative, a very easy thing you can do is take a few seconds to go through what I call the attitude of gratitude. Start listing, writing down if you need to, things you're thankful for. Maybe the fact you have a job, even though it may be a difficult job. The fact that you have some decent health, that you have some education. It's so easy to focus on the negative. And a simple exercise I tell people in workshops, take a piece of paper, put a line down the middle. Left-hand side, write the word problems and list all your problems. Financial, emotional, work-related, relationship, whatever they might be. And for every problem they list on the left-hand side, on the right-hand side, write the word blessings or good things and put on a counteracting blessing for each negative. For example, in a workshop a while ago, a lady said, I lost my husband recently, but I still have my children. I lost a lot of money when my stocks dropped drastically, if I still have my house, which is paid for? And people begin to see there's power looking at the right-hand column, not the left-hand.
I bet you your book contains many of these types of tips and practical advice to help people who are feeling at the mercy of their attitudes rather than looking at them as a choice that they can make.
They do. It goes back to the comment that sometimes we don't lack for knowledge, we lack for implementation. And I've said, I don't think people want so much or need so much to know that certain things might be good for them to do, but they want the skills. But also besides, how do I change the attitude? What's the motivation for working at it, staying at it? Too many people start something and don't follow through. So I suggest to people, here are some things you can do to keep yourself consistent so you permanently change as much as possible, that long-term approach, long-term attitude. So it's all about the how-to.
What is it that you've uncovered in your research and working with people all over the country and all over the world that helps them be better at following through?
Two things. So one is write it down. When people do not write things down, it's amazing how short their memories tend to be. Write it down. That tells your subconscious mind, this is important, now get to it. And it's amazing how much more you'll achieve by actually writing it down than just thinking about it. And secondly, it always works well to have an accountability partner. Whether it's a colleague on the job, somebody in your family, ask them, would you call me once a week? Check on me. Ask how it's going with this particular skill, with this new approach. Now, people know that someone's going to call on them, talk to them. Chance of them following through increase dramatically.
Alan, you wrote this book after already being quite successful in business and in other areas of your life. What are a couple lessons that you learned from writing the book yourself?
First one would be that everybody, and I really believe this, everybody has the potential for being incredibly happy, extremely successful, on and off the job. That's the first thing. You have that potential. You really can be happier. You can be more successful. And secondly, the lesson is that if other people can do it, you can do it if you use certain skills. It may be that attitude of gratitude, maybe writing down the commitments you're going to follow through on, maybe telling yourself to stop it. But if you have a few key things like that you're going to follow through on, you'll see the difference taking place in your life and your job.
And those are important lessons for readers of the book. Are there any personal insights that you gained in the process of writing and researching the book?
I really have, and I started about 10 years ago writing a weekly article, a newsletter, if you will, on the internet called Dr. Zimmerman's Tuesday Tip. I found there's so much material to cover. Couldn't do it in one book. So I've been writing an article for people once a week, and I've been blown away. We've gone from 500 subscribers to over 75,000 subscribers to the internet newsletter. It's one of the most popular newsletters right now on the internet, and I spend 10 hours a week writing the best things I can possibly find on motivation, attitude, teamwork, and put it together as a free offering to people because I believe that they know how to do it, push them to do it. There'll be a great deal more success, and so I keep giving more and more every single week. I want to reinforce those things.
And Alan, if you were to be able to help people target in, know that this is a book that can help them, how would they self-identify as someone who could really benefit from reading Pivot?
I think one thing a person could do very easily is look in your network, in your job, in your career, in your industry, or even in your family. Pick out 5 to 10 people that you consider quite successful. They've done very well in their careers, well in their lives. Consider them successful, you consider them quite happy, that they know you well, and ask them for some feedback. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate me in terms of attitude? If you get quite a few folks saying less than a 7, that's a good piece of information that says, got some work to do.
Well, Alan, you have shared so many great nuggets and ideas about attitude, about making choice points in your life so that you can get better rather than get bitter, and recognizing that there are choices available there, helping us understand about mind binders and talking back to ourselves so that we really take that under our own control and take them back so it's not being played from an old attitude or habit. You shared with us the importance and underscored having an attitude of gratitude and gave us some real concrete steps for doing that. So I want to thank you so much for being on my quest for the best with me today.
Bill, I would say in conclusion that there are 3 P's in business. There's the product, there's the process, and there are the people. We're pretty good on products. Quality is not much of an issue anymore. Many companies have learned how to do the processes quite well. But it's the people thing that I focus on. How do we transform the people side of business? When that gets transformed, can it last a lot longer, be more profitable, and certainly a much happier career as well as a better life?